I've seen that you do spoken word, and where did this all start for you? When was the first piece that you wrote?
So the first piece, oh gosh, I always love telling a story. So the first time I got into spoken word, I was actually 13 years of age, and I was in secondary school, and there was a boy that I liked, and I'm a really big hopeless romantic, and I'm obsessed with romance films. So I always used to watch them, and in the American ones, you get the girl, she ends up writing a song for the boy, or the boy writes a song. So I was like, oh, you know what, I can't sing, but I can try poetry out. And this boy, I really liked him, so I wrote him a poem. And I read it to him in the playground, and I remember saying it to him, and then literally crying afterwards, because he literally was telling everyone he didn't like me back. And then ever since, I was literally I started writing spoken word constantly after that, about how I felt, and then I soon realised that writing poetry was a way of me releasing my anger, or my emotions. So all of my emotions just go from my body to the pen and paper. And then as soon as I started getting as soon as I got older, I watched the news a lot more, and I saw what was going on around me. I was more familiar with everything, and then that's when I started taking spoken word more seriously, and I started writing about more topical issues that everyone can relate to.
Do you feel like it's a real part of your well-being?
Yes. I think without spoken word, I think I'd go insane, literally. Before, I was writing diary entries, but it's not the same. I don't know. I think the kind of rhythm and the lyrics that come into spoken word is just, I don't know, it's soothing, especially when you read it back.
Yeah, of course. And do you start at the beginning with a track or a soundtrack, or does that come later on?
I think that comes later on, yeah. When I'm writing, it's usually at night, and I write with a backing, an instrumental, but it's not one that I'll necessarily use for spoken word, but it's one that just gets me in the mood to write. So then I just sit down and just write and think about my feelings.
I remember being jealous of how happy you were. The warmth people felt when they were around you, the breath of fresh air you gave to remind us that everything would be okay, and the tears you dropped to wash our woes away.
You mentioned earlier that you like to write in the evenings. Is that something because you feel you're more in a creative flow at that time?
Yeah, I think because I have such a big family, the house is always loud during the day. So I think at night time, it's the perfect time for me to just, when everyone's asleep, it's just quiet, it's dark outside, and I can just sit down and have my own time. But I think it being dark outside helps a lot as well. I don't think I've ever written a piece during the day. It's crazy, but yeah, for sure, it's my downtime before I sleep.
Brilliant. And is there any other things that you try to do in that creative process to get into the mindset that, right, I'm going to write something now, I'm going to write my thoughts?
Yeah, there'll be times where I would do a mind map. So sometimes when I'm angry or upset, I would sit down and just write a mind map of my feelings, and I tend to take this mind map with me everywhere. I literally have it. It's my diary, and I take a diary everywhere. And every single time, if I think of something on my journey to school, or if I'm feeling a certain emotion, I write it down, and I write a line down in my head that I've got in my head, and I write it down. I think my main inspiration is from the news. I like to see the news stories and what's going on around the world, and if there's an issue that I think that needs addressing, or maybe have a biased tone to it that people can sort of argue with, I kind of like that. I would write a piece and see people's opinion on it. But I do tend to write and get inspiration from family and feelings. I think feelings is one thing for me. Not so much family, unless I'm told by a family member to write something for an event or something, but it's definitely feelings and what's going on around me. Yeah. I love to write about war and conflict. I think that's my favourite topic to write about. I have a few pieces on the Palestinian-Israeli war, and I also have a few pieces on the Sudanese civil war, or the Sudanese uprising, especially coming from a Sudanese background. I find it very interesting to research it, especially because I don't actually live in Sudan, I live in England. So for me, it's not only expanding my knowledge on the topic, but it's also allowing me to kind of connect back home, if that makes sense. And yeah, like just I think War and Conflict is my favourite.
And you've mentioned there about it, you know, if it can start a debate when you put it out there. Do you have to grow in confidence with something like that? Because that's quite brave to do.
Yeah, I think so. There's always an element of me that's very not argumentative. I like a good debate.
Yeah.
I like a good debate, and I think sometimes I can say stuff in poetry that if I was to say it normally, everyone would be like, well, that's wrong. But when I say it in a poem form, everyone's like, oh, it's beautiful, and it's crazy to see the contrast. But sometimes I think you do have to have a lot of courage, to speak about something that will definitely cause a lot of disagreements.
Amazing. And what's it like to perform a piece like?
Honestly, I think it's the best feeling ever.
I am a threat. Danger. Alarms ring around free, a void of silence fills the empty room, questions fill, what is wrong with me? A woman, they say, a criminal to all humanity, one who's inferior due to her inner superiority, looked down upon because of femininity. I am a woman, but if that means I am a monster, then let it be.
When I get on stage, I'm a completely different person to when I'm not on stage, and it's not that like I think when I'm saying spoken word, I'm so in the moment that like my voice becomes passionate of what I'm speaking about, my like mood changes, but it's very, I don't know, it really helps. It helps me so much, poetry, and I've had so much feedback that it helps other people. What I've spoken about, like it's like voice is so soothing, like, and it calms people down, and I think it's nice to know that you have an impact on someone.
And if someone was thinking about doing spoken word, maybe writes poetry at the moment, but not thought about taking it to another stage where you might put music to it and things like that, what's your advice to them? Where do you begin?
I always say this, I think everyone's a poet, but I don't think everyone knows it. I think there's a part of poetry in everyone, but people haven't unlocked it yet or like found it yet. I do think, especially during this lockdown, it's an anxious time for everyone, and I think if someone's feeling down or a bit like sad about everything that's going on, writing definitely helps. As much as you can find love in anything else, writing is like writing your feelings out. It's like it's left your body and it's just ended the book. And I think I would definitely let everyone know that you can write, but talking is obviously important as well. But to write something down, because talking is not always easy. So to write something down, even if it's just to yourself, you don't have to tell anyone, just go for it, literally. I don't think I'll ever stop writing. I literally, even if it's the sentence a day, I don't think I'll ever stop writing. I love it so much.